Mark Cuban studied his way into Shark Tank. Ariana Grande built a beauty empire on authenticity. They didn't fake it, they owned it. Because in business, real beats pretend. But real still takes work, a shift in mindset, from clocking in to calling the shots, from paycheck to payroll. We asked 12 entrepreneurs who've made that leap and kept going when things got hard. They've built brands, led teams, balanced chaos, and stayed standing. No filters, no fantasies, just proof. This is what real business looks like. Let's get into it.
The glamorous idea of entrepreneurial life often hides a harsh reality. Starting a business is hard work that demands endless perseverance and dedication. Much of what you need to succeed comes from experience and learning from failures. What are some of the worst things about running your own business? We ask the experts.
1.
I think it probably depends on the person and what their strengths and weaknesses are. I would say for me, the worst thing is operational components of it. Managing finances and taxes and paperwork and HR and all of those components, they're not my favorite. I would say, whatever the thing that you dislike is probably going to be the thing that's going to be the most difficult for you. I love vision. I love setting strategy. I love all those components. But the hard part is the implementation and the day-to-day grind.
2.
The hardest part about running a coaching practice and even just a business in general is that the amount that I'm actually coaching is very, very, very small in comparison to the amount of time I'm writing emails or creating content or having sales calls, or I see this a lot with anyone that wants to get into any industry is they want to get into the industry because they love the craft. And what people have a hard time realizing is that your craft is not the same as running a business. So the majority of my time and effort every single day is marketing, it's communications, it's conversations, it's sales, it's a lot of things that are not necessarily the craft of coaching. And that, again, kind of ebbs and flows as well. One of the things that I'm kind of moving into is getting a little bit more out of the realm of coaching, and I'll be launching more digital products this year. I'm launching a magazine, my podcast, things like that, and diversifying. But it's a hard reality that a lot of people have to face when they get into business, is that what they got into the business for is not necessarily how they're going to be spending their time day in and day out for the next few decades.
3.
The worst thing I think about being our own boss is we can have the tendency to think we're our own boss. And when we think like that, then we think, well, maybe I shouldn't have to do this or shouldn't have to do that because I'm the boss. So the worst thing I think about being our own boss is to realize you're still responsible for everything that happens within the company. And we have a personal responsibility to actually make sure that we stay on top of those things, even when we get tired, even when we don't want to. For me, I think that's the worst thing that I experience from time to time. Other than that, being your own boss, for me, it's part of my purpose in life, right? To be my own boss and to show people how they can do that themselves. Because, most of us want some level of freedom and some level of saying, I did it my way. And it's very gratifying when that happens. But we also have to understand that we are entering a business. The business doesn't care if we're tired. It doesn't care if we're sick. It doesn't care whether we're happy. It doesn't care if we're elated. It really doesn't. It just money out, money in equals something. That's what the business cares about. And it wants the money in because it will spend the money out.
4.
You need more revenue to be able to hire folks to relieve you of some of the hats that you wear, right? So I'm the CEO, I'm the program manager, I'm the proposal writer, I am the facilitator, the graphics artist, the whole kit and caboodle. So that is where I need help. And the only way to do that is to win more work. And it's hard to try to win more work when I have to go out to networking events and, folks are calling me, hey, can you help me with my problem? versus, spending time looking at the opportunities that are out there and then carving out the time to write a proposal. Until I get that time and get that more bodies on the corporate level, I'm going to struggle.
5. The biggest challenge that we find is raising capital. It's just amazing. 3 years ago, we were in another one of these cycles where, I could write an idea on a piece of paper and I could hand it to somebody and they give me $5 million, right? If you're well connected and you know some of these guys, you could basically chart out something on the back of a napkin and get funded. I've never actually started a business in that cycle, which has been quite good actually for the businesses that we've started. So we navigate through the channels that actually work and use that natural flow to help us build the business. It's not always easy, can be a little challenging in terms of finding people to work. As an example, when we started putting Pro Valet together and just looking to do the MVP, which is a minimum viable product, it was hard to find engineers to help us build the platform, and even harder when we decided that, hey, yeah, we have something that works, let's go ahead and build the production level of it. We had quite a challenge. We spent an awful lot of money on people that were mid to lower grade talents, and we got it done. I have some guys on our team that have been with me since 2011. So the good news is we had good leadership and we were able to muddle through and build out the system still in a rock solid way that we like. It's the way we like to build things. But the most challenging thing is funding. And right now, we've come off of the high highs, and any one of the guys that would normally invest in our business are kind of licking their wounds because they overinvested in platforms that had a lot of hope and promise and a lot of promotion, but maybe not necessarily the actual revenue to sustain the business during a down period. So we're going through that right now. I mean, it's part of it. It's part of actually it does help to build a better story because you can't avoid the details. You have to open your kimono to everything. There's nothing that can just sort of like mask over things. So, and the great news is that we've built a really dynamic system. The people that we've shown it to are really impressed with it. They love the team. And so we're in active discussions with a number of really excellent potential partners.
The entrepreneurial journey is not a one-size-fits-all experience. It can be the natural next step for some, a way to escape an unhappy career, or a way to make a larger impact in the world. Whatever the reason, making the leap means a shift in mindset. So, how do you navigate this transition? We ask the experts.
1.
I started my marketing career in 1990, and I stayed there about 3.5 years. After that, I was at Coca-Cola, which is another global brand recognized all over the world. I think Coke sold in about 200 countries around the world. So again, just really getting a great foundation in consumer products marketing. B2C, the budgets when you work at a place like P&G or Coke are in the millions. And these are brands that can afford to sponsor, the Olympics, the Oscars. They have huge budgets, huge brands. But the internet started to take off in the mid to late 90s. And I got very distracted by all these startup companies. I ended up running marketing at 3 successful startup companies, all venture-backed. 3 in a row, and they all had really good exits. Each one either went public or was sold or both. So my first chapter was corporate marketing. My second chapter was startup marketing. And then, like you said, about 22 years ago, I hung out a shingle and started my own marketing firm as an entrepreneur, and I've never looked back. When you work for a big company in a big corporate job with a big budget, you never really know if you're good or the brand is good because there's so much inertia, there's so much momentum. Coca-Cola was over 100 years old when I joined the company. The brands that I worked for at Procter & Gamble were 30, 40 years old. So am I good, or is it there's so much built up goodwill in these brands that they were going to be successful with or without me? When you join a startup that no one's ever heard of before, they don't know the brand, they don't know the business, their logo either doesn't exist or it means nothing, and you make that brand important and you make that brand come to life, and then that brand takes on a life of its own when the company is bought or sold or, acquired, goes public. When that happens, your DNA is in that brand. You helped make that brand come to life. And I can tell you with all three of the startups, things that I did, decisions that I made that are part of the DNA of that brand that would have never happened if it weren't for me and my team. So there's something very fulfilling and gratifying when you can kind of really make a brand come to life. And it's not inertia, it's not momentum. You made it happen. So I think that was the motivation for me to leave the comfort of a big corporate entity and really see what I was made of if I could make it happen.
My career out of grad school began as a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and making the transition between that and having a steady full-time paycheck to becoming a full-time entrepreneur and having to create my own paycheck definitely had some rocky moments. I have had some moments in my journey. The day I was on the Today Show, I had 25 cents in my bank account. At the end of 2015, I couldn't pay my rent. I've definitely had some moments where I've had to figure it out. But what I have learned through my career in entrepreneurship is that our job as an entrepreneur is to prove to ourselves what we're capable of every single day. And while it might seem secure to have someone else pay you, I have learned over 17 years that it is actually not more secure to have someone else pay you. And the reason being, my employer actually emailed me out of the blue in 2014 and said, hey, you're not working full time, so you have two options. You can either start working full time again and keep your hourly rate, or you can stay at your part-time role and we're cutting your hourly rate in half. And what I found is that with a lot of employers, you're at the mercy of their decisions. But for myself, I'm never going to do that to myself. I am never going to let myself down, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to prove to myself that I have the power, the capability, the control to create my own reality and change my destiny.
As a new immigrant who speak the US accents and sometimes have difficulty understand them and them understand me, I put myself in the ocean and you swim. Just imagine you're a non-swimmer and you throw yourself in the ocean and learn to swim. So I always believe in facing difficulties, you have to just go forward and you will endure it and succeed. So don't run away from it, just face it. So I'm here for 10 years, and to understand this market, we have to really go deep into every state and every part of the US. So in the initial stage of my career, I immersed myself in a wholesale market whereby I help a wholesale company to brand develop them into the whole of US. Now, how do we do that? Is I sign up for trade show. We set up booth in different part of US. So we went to New York show. We went to Vegas for the Magic show, which is a very big fashion event, wholesales and sourcing events in this part of the US, the west part. So there is East, West, South, and also Midwest. So we went to every part of US to showcase the products. And from there, I learned how do people shop, what do they like. It's very different. A customer in New York and a customer in Midwest, they are totally different. They look for different color, different style. Even the buttons, even as small as the design and the fabrics, they are all different. So after understanding different part of US, I learned along the way and I put all this experience into my own business. So from throwing myself into the oceans, going into every part of US to understand what customers need, I get a very deep understanding of what they really want, and from there develops the products and cater to their needs. And that is how I succeeded.
There's a great saying, which is from Mike Tyson, which is everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And taking that leap Going from a major organization like Meta, like Facebook, and being on your own, you realize that it's harder than I think you initially thought it would be. You think like, oh, we're going to have all the support. I'm going to be able to use the same sort of resources that I have working with a large company. And you realize there's a lot of work and a lot of different things that go into being an entrepreneur that you didn't realize you were going to be running into. Anything from government compliance and all the paperwork behind it, hiring great talent, scaling beyond yourself, managing payroll. So many different components of running a business that I had to learn along the way. But that said, I don't think I'll ever go back. I think learning all those things and knowing how to run a business and getting to where I am now, it would be very hard to go back into a large sort of bureaucracy, if you will, even if it is a great Silicon Valley.
5.
But I had a little bit of a different journey to entrepreneurship. I did in 2012 start what I think people would now call a solopreneurship, a consultancy. And I will tell you that the reason how I got into that, it was not, based on a book I read or business school or, I had a dream about hanging out a shingle. Though in my career, I've been encouraged to try that many years. Like, try it. You should do your own business. You should start it. I didn't. I absolutely wanted the experience, the security, the resources, as you just shared, and just really the inputs and collaboration with other professionals. And so I really built my career on the global big agency side of things. And it really did enable me to work across a variety of verticals with world-class brands and have really once in a career type experiences, creating programs and really having impact with consumers. But in 2012, I did decide to go and do some consulting work, and it was based on my mom got sick. And she was very sick, and it really was the type of sickness that really pulled me out of my day-to-day life, emotionally, practically, and I needed to really focus my attention other ways. And I understand that as I meet and talk to other entrepreneurs, all too often, we don't have the big plan. We don't have the big, business plan that somebody is going to help us every way of the word. It might be based on circumstance. You lost a job, you had a health, incident in the family, you needed to spend more time with your children or with your aging parents, and you needed more flexibility in your schedule. So that's how I got into it in 2012, was really because I needed more time to be able to devote to family matters at that time. And I then decided to start to consult. And I had a role that was what we would call today, we didn't use that word back in 2012, a fractional role, where I took sort of a full-time sort of plug and play role for someone who was on maternity leave. And then I liked that idea because it gave me what I had when I worked with teams, but it also gave me the flexibility and the freedom to take care of what I needed to in my life. And it was through that process that I sort of a little bit got the bug. Now, I will tell you, it didn't stick because I did wind up taking full-time and permanent positions after that. I still certainly had that consulting experience under my belt, but I wind up going and working inside other organizations for many years after that. It wasn't until December of 2019 when I incorporated the business as it stands now and really said, you know what, this is it. I'm in it. We got to try it. I'm going to do it. 2020 is going to be the year. Clear sight. We're going to see. It's going to be fantastic. Now, who knew the pandemic was coming? But that was really how it happened. So I had some full-time inside, leader running businesses within other companies, some intrapreneurship experience. But I didn't really do this in the way that I'm doing it now, that the way some of your followers did until 2019. So we're not quite 4 years old, but we're still here.
6.
So it wasn't easy for me. Moving from like you said, a very structured business, dress right, do what you are told, never questioning command or those who are in charge. I found it difficult when I became a civilian because I had those same qualities. Leadership was very direct. It was pay attention to detail. You wasn't really allowed to make a mistake because if you make mistakes in the military, someone could lose their life. So when I went into the civilian sector, particularly IBM and Lockheed Martin, the culture was completely different because you're working with civilians who are more, use your soft skills. And so I had to learn to use my soft skills in those environments to get the work done and to get people to follow me. I created BES Solutions in 2018, but I didn't work the business in 2018. I was still in corporate America working for IBM. And in the background, I was getting the business certified, applying for the certification, service disabled, veteran owned, economically disadvantaged, MBE certifications, things of that nature. What I thought I had was a large network of business development folks that I could talk to. I really didn't. They were like, oh my God, you're leaving. And not everybody is happy for you when you decide to leave a company and you start your own company. So getting my brand out there was not easy. I used LinkedIn to email my old connections from Lockheed Martin and IBM and the federal government, and people didn't know my company. I didn't have any past performance, so I really could not really move. But when 2020 occurred, COVID-19, everybody was home. Everybody was fiddling their fingers, trying to figure out what they were going to do to fill the time. And so I opened up sam.gov, which is where all of the federal opportunities were. And I shot my shot and I bid on 2 deals and I won one of those deals as a prime contract.
Starting and growing a business can be daunting, especially if you have no industry experience. There are many factors to consider, from developing a product or service to building a team and marketing your company. So, what are some of the top tips for success? We asked the experts.
1. I would say focus. I think that's been a real big thing that I've struggled with a lot, especially with more of like the ADHD side, shiny object syndrome, so to speak. I know for a fact that if I'd stayed in businesses longer and hadn't exited when I had, they would be so much bigger and could have been a lot more enjoyable than I think that point when I decided to exit. I think focusing on fewer core things for a longer period of time, it has served me well lately, and it would have served me well in the past. 2.
One of the things that I really notice between people that are able to truly kind of ascend their circumstances and create successes in their business is that they keep going. And there is this level of resilience and determination that comes along with entrepreneurship that cannot go unspoken about. If you do a launch and no one purchases from you, an entrepreneur doesn't quit. They assess the data, they figure out what worked of that, what didn't work, why people didn't purchase, they adjust slightly, and then they go back out and they launch something else again. And what I've seen in entrepreneurs over and over again, and the ones that truly stand the test of time, is that they keep going. They don't use quote unquote failure, because I firmly don't believe that there is such thing as a failure. So they don't take failure as a stopping point. They take it as information and data that feeds them to know what that next step is in their journey.
3. I would say to anyone else that was younger, like, stay with it. Don't give up. If you don't try, you don't know if you'll succeed or fail. If you fail, just get back up and try it again. As long as you make decisions based with, calculated risks, that's it. Everything is a risk. If you get on that bicycle, you might fall. So if you're going to get on that bicycle, don't go on a rough road, go on a normal street. So if you fall, it's not that bad. So always have mitigating factors. Biggest thing is surround yourself with smart people smarter than you. You do not know everything. You cannot do everything. So I was lucky enough to have a college buddy of mine, Jim Landis. We went to NYU together. He has an existing staff. If I did this without him or his staff, they would not be here right now.
4.
For my case is I have 10 years of marketing experience. I come from a long way of marketing different products, from skincare to baby powder to dialysis treatment for patients. In terms of marketing, I have a solid foundation. And then when I took up the challenge of starting my own fashion brand, because fashion is my interest, it added to my strength. So with the marketing, business, and also my strong passion and talent in designing, I was able to make this business a success. And I graduated from FIDM, which is a very well-known fashion school in Los Angeles.
If you're starting your business from scratch, you're probably ready to try anything to succeed. But is faking it or bending the rules ever worth it? We ask the experts.
1, you got to have substance. You got to look in the mirror. You got to make sure that that person looking back at you is somebody you want to be. So I run internal. I'm not saying you shouldn't present yourself as a high quality, high level company and individual, but you have to make sure that you are. To fake it, that's one thing. But if you can't make it, because you don't have the wherewithal, the service, the quality, whatever, is gonna just blow your company up. And it's really gonna ruin your credibility in that. And if you stay in the industry, which most people do, over a 30, 40-year period, different capacities maybe, but you don't wanna have a bad reputation. It's something that's very hard. It's today's world, Yelp and online and Google, all these reporting things, that fake it till you make it could blow up in your face. My opinion, if it works for some people, great. I don't really do it that way. I'd rather have my fundamentals of blocking and tackling correct, and then we'll go out and we'll do what we've got to do.
2, I think it all comes down to confidence. I think that is advice about confidence. That the bottom line is, don't get all in your head about what you do and don't know. Be honest with yourself about what you do and don't know, and don't make apologies for not knowing things, right? When I think about fake it till you make it, I really think it's, look, just because you don't know this, or you haven't had this experience, or you don't know that, doesn't mean that you can't add value. Doesn't mean that you can't participate in this discussion. Doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to be somebody that gets to decision makers or whatever else. I don't think you should fake it till you make it and let that allow you to lie to people about your background, expertise, experience. But if that message helps you to get out of your own head and be like, look, how would I act if I felt really confident in myself? Cool, that's how I'm going to act. If you find that useful, have at it. But that's to me, if that's what you need to feel confident, that's a useful thought. If it's causing you to pretend like you've done things you haven't done, probably less useful. 3,
I think we probably said that, from time to time internally. I feel like that word has been said a few times, but for us, what I'll say that means for us is we were trying to build product that would help us build solutions that we were then trying to, we could use for our customers. And we knew the products in the market didn't meet the need. So we were building cognitive forms to meet this really complex problem. And so obviously when we launched, our product did not meet our own objectives. Like, we couldn't build the solutions that we wanted to build ourselves with our platform. So in a lot of cases, we were having to talk about our product and say how it could be used and kind of work around some of the limitations of it until we got to be. And to some extent, I would say it's only this year that I'm like, you know what, we've actually nailed it. We've actually can build the solutions on our platform that we were trying to build for our consulting customers a decade ago. So I think there's definitely some truth to that. If your vision is big and vast, then there's going to be a period of time where you're going to have to work it until you're there, right? And so, yeah, I think there's a valid point to that, but at the same time, don't lose faith, don't lose your focus, stay aligned with your vision. If you keep after one day after another, you will get there. You will definitely get there. You just have to stay focused.
4.
I personally am not a huge fan of the fake it before you make it conversation because I'm also trained hypnotherapist, and so I understand how the subconscious brain works. And the subconscious brain is 95% of what operates our mind, body on a daily basis. Our subconscious is very, very, very smart and knows the difference between the truth and a lie. So if you are constantly trying to fake something, your subconscious is going to kick it back out as like, that's a lie. That's not real. That doesn't work. So what I like to do instead of faking it is I like to actually become it. So even if I don't have the results that I want yet, I can still embody myself as the person that I am when I have those results. If the 7-figure me thinks in a certain way, behaves in a certain way, feels a certain way, Those are things that I can experience right now in this moment without having those results. And what's cool is I'm also kind of a quantum physics nerd, that if you do that work and you do the embodiment work and you embody it before you make it, you will actually make it more quickly because you're in alignment with that reality showing up outside of you. Not to get too deep here, but I was literally watching a quantum physics documentary last night on a Sunday night in my spare time.
5. I don't believe in faking it at all. Are there things we need to do to cheerlead ourselves, to motivate ourselves? There are going to be times, especially in entrepreneurship, where you doubt yourself, where you wonder, why am I doing this? Have I lost my mind? I can't do it. I can't accomplish it. The can't talk happens. I think that happens to us all. So while I don't think we need to fake it, but I do believe we need to find ways to cheerlead ourselves out of that, to self-soothe and to care for ourselves through those periods of doubt. I don't believe in faking it because I think sometimes people have faked it and then you find out they actually can't do this. They actually don't know what they're talking about. That is what we don't want. We don't want people pretending to be or do something that they don't have any clue about. It actually it's a trust breaker, but more than that, you actually could do more harm than good. So while I don't believe in the fake it till you make it, I do believe in cheerleading yourself. I believe in finding people on your team, whether it's your literal work team, whether it's your personal team, whether it's your own advisory board. And I believe that entrepreneurs especially should have folks who are their personal advisory board, not just their advisory board for their business. People who can look at you and your brand very critically and help you through it. I think you need people who can help you through those times of doubt until you make it. So if not fake it till you make it, maybe the right word is, maintain until you make it. And then when you make it, be willing to share that journey with people because that's important.
6. I think it's important not to do that. Like, there's plenty of ways that you can make it without faking it. So for example, like, let's say you were starting an agency. You don't want to then go out and say, we've ranked all of these different websites, we're so great, that you take a client on and nothing happens. That would be the absolute worst thing. So taking on a client for free at the start, hey, we'll do your SEO for you, is a fantastic way of building up your skills and actually being able to achieve what you say you're going to do. So if you built up a few clients for free at the start, you then use those testimonials, their different examples and things like that, then you can make it without faking it. You're front and saying, hey, this is the first time we're doing this, but we want to take you on as a client, it will be free, etc., etc. So that is the way that I would recommend doing it as opposed to the latter, the other way.
The Best of Business show is brought to you by the BASA Awards. The BASA Awards exist to recognize, reward, and promote exceptional small businesses. We run 4 award programs: Best of America, Best of Australia, Best of Canada, Best of UK. Remember, it's strictly for small businesses only. Nominate your business today.